Is it going?
So I'm taking my 1/8 deerfoot and I'm not stippling. I pick it up and I'm just going to kind of lay it in here. And we'll put it where we want our snow clumps. Now, you may have them drawn back on. If you do, great. It's kind of a here and there kind of thing. And what we're doing is we're putting in depth in our snow clumps. So when you look out and you see the snow on it, you do see blues, and so I'm going to take and put that in. And I'm going to come back on top, pick up, just with the dirty brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of gray sky. So you see how I'm just tapping it throughout it? So some of my blue is hidden, some is still there. I want to have a little bit of a fuzzy edge in a few places, and that's why I'm using the deerfoot, because it's giving me that, but I'm not intending to do a stippling like we would if we were trying to do a little teddy or something. So we'll just come in like so, add this, and we'll pull a few needles through later on. We'll come back and do that. So we'll go like that, and then I'm taking warm white and finishing it off. We're like icing on a cake. But you see your depths there. And if you want to, you can go back with a little snow white later. Just take your liner or round and go back and add a little snow white if you feel like it. But we'll see once we get our needles on and see how you feel about that. So we're just see how we're going through and we're adding that last bit of white. And it just kind of fills in the snow clumps. There we go. Thank you. Is it all? We're going to start his ears by applying warm beige coming from the top. I'm going to wipe my brush, pick up Terra Coral, come up this side, from the bottom up. Wipe my brush, and I'm going to work these colors together. Just softly scratch. There's not a lot of area, and it is a small brush, so we give it a wipe every now and then on our towel or paper towel. See how quickly that one dried? Give my brush a wipe. I'm going to pick up some sand gray and come from the top down a bit, just to add a little highlight. Not lots. Wipe that and just softly blend that in. So that's our ears. We're going to do that to all the pink that we see. All right?
Okay. Just a rose foncé. There it is.
Okay. We're going to start for the ears by putting a quick wet coat of sand gray. And then I'm going to have raw umber and cobblestone mixed together. And that's going to be our darkening. And I'm going to apply that here. Give my brush a wipe and then just softly scratch. I don't want to take everything off the brush when I gave it that wipe. So we just scratch it upwards. And you can see in your photo, okay, you can see in your photo how it's darker along the bottom. So there, it's all going to be darker along the bottom. I didn't do that one yet, Wendy. Wipe my brush, pick up my warm white, and come from the top back down. If it really dries out fast on you, you can always pick up a bit more sand gray in between and scratch that in. But all we need is for it to be lighter at the top. See the scratchy? That's that. We are going to be using our grainer afterwards, or you can choose to use just your liner, but to pull some little fine little hairs over off the edge. But for now, we're just looking for our whiter to be coming from the top scratched in. That's it. So we're going to do that for all of our ears. So I'll just go ahead and do the second ear again. So if you want to see that, come along. And if you're fast enough while you're doing it, now you see I've got fresh sand gray there, and I've got my mix already made, instead of having to stop and make it again. You see how it'll work in quicker because my paint's remaining wet, right? So nice and soft, and ease up on your scratching. Like, don't press hard. A nice soft scratching makes a big difference. So I pick up my warm white now, and I'm going to come from the top and scratch it downwards. So we're just putting this little scratchy effect. Sometimes you see the little scratchy lines, sometimes you don't. There we go. Okay. So we just want to come from light, fade it down into the dark. Wet coating again. So I'm going to do it in a section. I'll do the top part of his face down to his nose there. And I can see that I'm being chintzy with my paint. I'm just trying to spread it all the way down there rather than picking up more. And if we're calling it a wet coat, we want it to stay wet. I'll have to touch that eye back up, but I'd rather have to touch it up. Then I'm going to go into warm white. And our warm white, if you look at your picture, is more, whoops, I got a chunk of something in there. I'm going to get some fresh warm white. There we go. Okay, so we're going to scratch that warm white where we see it in our picture. So when you're looking at your picture, it's more this size you can see. We're going to scratch that warm white here. And we are going to enhance around his eyes if needed afterwards. Wipe my brush. I'm going to pick up my cobblestone. And that's just cobblestone. It looks darker to you. I keep wiping my brush too as I go so that I'm not bringing all of that light paint around. So you see we'll scratch it upwards and I can just back and forth. I'm not using a lot of pressure. We want to keep our pressure down. We don't want to use a lot of pressure. Then I'm going to pick up that again and come back with the cobblestone behind his cheeks or muzzle, whichever we're going to correctly call it. So swipe my brush, and I actually want these furs to go this way. And if I want more white in there, but we are coming afterwards with our grainer or liner, whichever you choose. See, I can come up here and say, oh, that needs to be a little whiter. But we are coming back with that afterwards and scratching in some more of it. We'll be putting, if you look at it, you can see more white around their eyes and things like that. We'll be adding that. So right now, we just want to, I'm just popping that back up again. And if you can tell, I do scrunch the brush, but if you can tell, I'm not pressing hard. This is just, I'm letting the brush just lightly scratch on top. If I press hard, it becomes like it's almost over like blending.
A dry brush.
Yep, very much. So I can scrunch that and I can just softly bring a little bit more cobblestone down. We can go into our darkened, but we're going to be shading with that after too. but if you want to bring a little of that around the darkest areas, not too much. That looks good. Okay, give them that little scratchy up here. So what we're doing here is we're going to, I switched to my 1/4 inch because it'll do it up faster, and it's quite a large section. So we are applying our paint, and even though it makes no difference, I'm still applying it even in the direction that it goes. So now I'll pick up, I can go to the white first or the cobblestone, doesn't matter. So I'll bring my cobblestone down. And I'll come up from behind his little paws. Wipe my brush, pick up my white, and come from the center upwards. Going to pick up more, and I'm always scrunching when I pick up the paint too. What I mean by scrunching is I give it a twist on the palette. Does that show, Melissa? No. Okay, so I'll just pull some palette over here, and I just give the brush a scrunch. Okay, so it's a twist and a grind, let's call it. So, and then nice and softly, that opens up the bristles when I do that. So we'll bring these in. I'll do my little pause, and then if I want to come back and strengthen, I can do that at the same time. Dark from the bottom coming up on our little pause. Wipe it off, scrunch, bring it down on the top of the paw. And I may as well go in and do this muzzle right now while we're here. Some of you went ahead and did it, and some are waiting. I should have been using my 1/4 inch, but my 1/8, but I'm finding it's working okay here. Dark coming from the center outwards and around that nose muzzle, and a little dark. I definitely could have used the 1/8. And then we take our white and just scratch back into it. We're going to strengthen all the white with our brain freeze here, girls, with our grainer. Yeah. And then I should have my 1/8 to do that bottom of that little lip. I know I need to. And we're going to paint that solid. You'll see in your picture, we're going to paint in that line too, which really helps with that. So that looks good. We will be adding white lines in here, so when to stop that. Okay, all right. Okay. Yes, they are, because I know we've seen them. Okay. So I'm using the mixture.
Sorry, you mixed what?
And I just kind of filled in. You can fill it in, like to paint it in if you want to. I'm shading the nose. And it's just going to basically dirty it up is what's going to happen. We want the nose to get dirtied up. This is my cobblestone raw umber mix. I'm just going to come back here with a little more. There we go. Just to dirty it a little bit heavier. So we're going to shade in there. Later on we will do shading here. So because I'm right there right now, I'm just going to put a little in there. And I can shade along So do you see where that's actually along the side where we're going to put our little lines for our nose, leading down to our mouth. So we have our liner, and we're going to take and thin down raw umber, and I'm going to outline. So this is with thinned raw umber or bittersweet, it wouldn't matter. And you see how it's nice and thick coming down to the mouth. So you're going to do that. This sort of darkens up a little bit. Raw umber darkens up a little bit as it dries. It's kind of funny like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that, and then I'm going to only one step more. I'm going to clean my liner, and I'm going to pick up a little sand gray, and I'm just going to use my liner and just do a few little scratchies. See the fine little scratchies in the middle of his nose? Okay, that's good. Okay. I don't think I really have to have a video voice. Just a wet coat like we did with the ears. Lots of paint, don't be stingy. I'm going to pick up cobblestone, come from the bottom up and the top down, following the direction that the fur should go. Then I'm going to pick up white, give it a scrunch, and come in the middle. Now I'm going to add a little of the dark. It can go on before this or after this. It really doesn't matter. Nice and soft. We'll go back after and dry scratch some in. And now a little of the darker, just to strengthen up our area up top. It is going to be shaded afterwards, so it will get stronger. Just always want these to be uneven. And then the little feet are going to be done the same way. Wet coat. I'll bring my cobblestone from the bottom up. And then the dark will strengthen. And then scrunch from the top coming down, nice and soft, to give us our highlight on the top. And that's that. Use for the top part of your head if you're more comfortable with it. Now you've used the 1/8 and you've used the 1/4 inch. If you feel you'd rather use it to cover a bigger area faster, then you can do that. We had these little dotted lines. Do you have those on? You don't want them drawn on solid. We want little dotted lines so that you can, you know, kind of see whereabouts they are. This one over here doesn't even need to be there because we take it past there anyway. I'm going to get rid of him. All right. So I am going to go with this one because it's going to go do it faster for me. So I'm taking my sand gray and I'm going to wet coat. And even though it makes no difference right now for me to be pulling the direction, I still do it going the direction that the fur grows, just so that you get used to pulling that way. I think it's very helpful. Wipe my brush. I'm going to pick up, wipe my brush. I'm going to pick up cobblestone. And I'm going to come and just scratch my way upwards from behind the muzzle and the nose, right? So I'm just lightly scratching my way up. I'll come to the very top and just gently scratch my way. And you see how I'm curving, following the direction. So I just lightly scratch. So wiping my brush off, I'm going to pick up some warm white, and I'm going to come to the middle. And do you see, when you look at your picture, you see his forehead has quite a bright section. That's now rounding his head. Very soft and easy.
Lots of paint.
Yeah. And then I'm going to pick up my darkened. I think I'd like it a little darkender. A little darkender. Does that sound good? And I'll just gently come from the top and from the bottom, just a little bit, just to strengthen it up a bit. And remember, we're going to come back. I'm going to bring this lightly down around this side.
It went up the sides of the eyes as well, the darker?
The darker,
Yeah.
like up here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you're looking at this. We are going to be coming back with white after, with a round brush, and defining our white. But right now we're coming up like that. I'm going to take some sand gray coming from this side so that it's wet, because it doesn't seem to want to stay wet for places. And you see, I'm still using that 1/4 inch. So I think that it's working good for here. I know why, because mine are enlarged.
Yeah.
Brain freeze. Yeah. Oops. Wait the video. Okay. That's why it's making a big difference here. So you guys will still probably want to stay to the regular brush. There. So there's my white. So you see now how that's all shaping around. And then we have his, I guess this can come right down to here. I'll take some cobblestone and there. Now I'm going to do his cheeks. Didn't even dawn on me about my bigger size. I don't want to. This is sand gray. Yeah, this is the base coat color. So we do our muzzle. I'm going to take a little bit of cobblestone. I wipe my brush all the time, so I'm getting that excess white out of there, right? And I'm going to come from behind his nose a little bit and just lightly scratch up. The big key here is I'm not pressing. We always forget about this. I'm not pressing. Nice and soft. Scratch that up. Cleaned my brush off. Give it a scrunch. I've picked up white. Warm white. Nice and soft. I've got a bit too much there. So nice and softly scratch that from the outer edge inwards. We are going to be adding, I'm just going to bring in a little more of that white there. I kind of over blended it a bit there. So you see how that brings a bit of a muzzle shape here? We're going to, and I'm going to come back here. Like I said, we'll come back after, because after it dies down, we come back and kind of dry scratch in a little bit more of that white highlight. But that white's going to round his forehead. So the lighter that is, the more it rounds it out. See how the cheeks are sort of lifted off now? This one here on the other bunny is going to come back a lot more. It's not so rounded. You'll see that in your picture. Okay, so right now, that's where I want you to get. I don't know. And I ran out of cobblestone anyway. Okay, so I'm loaded and scrunched my brush with cobblestone, but I'm going to come nice around the nose and just gently scratch my way back. You see that we're wanting, when you look at your photo, we're wanting the white to come in by that mouth. So I clean my brush, pick it up, give it a scrunch. I wipe the brush. It's still going to have the other dirty paint technically in it. There's my white. And I'm just scratching. I can have a bit more than that. I don't want to be too cheap. There we go. And I just scratch it off and let it fade back there. Same thing on this side when you're looking over here. It's quite white from here. This is coming from that edge. Give my brush a little wipe off. I got a happy medium here. This is an enlarged picture a bit, but at some points I wouldn't really necessarily need that bigger brush. But see here, I can still come back. See how that faded down, eh? I can still come back and put a bit more white. But so you see how I might come with a little more cobblestone right here. There. Do you see how that just, it put a shadow behind our nose even though the nose isn't there yet. So it put a little bit of a shadow. I just don't want to leave any of that bright base coat color right there. Do you see how I had that above that cheek? So I just want to put a little dirty smudge in there. And I can take a little, say, sand gray, and I'll dab my brush into warm white just to give a little, you know, depends how fat we want this to be. We don't want his mouth to be too big of a mouth, so I can smudge a bit more. All right, do that. The nose. You can only do one side at a time, right? So you go over to the other bunny's half in the nose and shade there. So it's just a kind of a half comma thing. I am going to give it a quick dry. I'm going to wreck this right off of there. Doesn't matter. You've got to do both. But it's just I do one side, let the other dry, and now I'll come back. So it doesn't matter whichever one you did, then you come back and do the other. So it's not a... See how it just almost outlines it. But we turn around and we're now going to outline it. So we thin, to outline it, I'm going to thin raw umber. I want to have a shorter liner. And I don't have raw umber out by itself. So I just thin some raw umber. And I'm going to outline around his nose. I'm using a beater. Then we're going to take some bittersweet. Now you see how the bottom of the nose is darker, not the top. That top is just the thinned raw umber. The bottom is going to be with the bittersweet. So it ends up darkening that split, right? And then we have sand gray. And you're going to find, guys, that your nose looks a lot darker in that picture than it is in real life. So if you look at your photo or look at my photo and look up behind me, see those little highlight lines? And then I can just take a little warm white on the dirty brush, work that in, and just kind of add a few more in the middle. Just that little bit of highlight. Now when he gets his little fine whiskery things that we're going to pull on there, that's going to whiten up all that, and his nose won't look as bold as it is. And the same thing with our shading. See, he's got his mouth on. He doesn't have his lip. See the difference in it. So we're going to be doing our whiskers and stuff after we get all that stuff on.